In the history of Formula 1, there are bound to be weird and unexpected race finishes, such as those seen at the 1982 Monaco Grand Prix or the 1971 Italian Grand Prix. However, there is one race in particular that stands out as having one of the most crazy and unpredictable finishes, with its final result not being determined until several hours after the checkered flag had been waved. This is the story of the 1985 San Marino Grand Prix, Forgotten Formula. The San Marino Grand Prix served as the third round of the 1985 World Championship, which by this stage was a championship still wide open, with 4 teams hunting for the title. Defending champions McLaren were led by the 1984 Drivers' Champion Niki Lauda and Alain Prost, who secured second place in 1984, and was in contention for the 1984 title, with Lauda beating him by half a point. With Prost, who at this point had been runner-up twice for the World Championship, was wanting to win his first. McLaren were in contention alongside Williams, featuring Keke Rosberg and Lotus exit Nigel Mansell, who moved from the boys in black and gold after 5 seasons. Scuderia Ferrari had kept last season's drivers Michele Alboreto and Rene Arnoux, and finally Lotus, with the experienced Elio De Angelis and Ayrton Senna, who, after impressing in his first season in 1984 with Tolman, moved up to Lotus. The opening 2 rounds of the season in Brazil and Portugal presented a mixed bag of fortunes for all the teams. In Brazil, Alain Prost claimed the season's inaugural victory, with the Williams duo Rosberg and Mansell both retiring despite having cars capable of winning the race. Defending champion Lauda also retired due to mechanical issues, while De Angelis secured a third-place finish but 1 lap down, with Senna retiring with electrical problems in his Lotus. Meanwhile, Alboreto secured a second place after starting from pole, with his teammate and leading Ferrari driver Arnoux finishing 4th, 2 laps down after qualifying 7th. Arnoux, lacking motivation after a disappointing 1983 season, and still recovering from an off-season leg muscle injury, parted ways with Ferrari by mutual consent, paving the way for Swedish reserve driver Stefan Johansson, who had raced for Tyrrell in Brazil, to join the Scuderia. The second round in Portugal was memorable for Lotus and Senna, with Senna claiming his first pole position and leading from start to finish with a rain-affected race at Estoril, securing his first career win and Lotus's first victory since 1982. De Angelis, despite finishing 4th, was a lap down from his teammate. With 6 full seasons in Grand Prix racing and now being outperformed by a relative newcomer, De Angelis knew he had to impress at Imola. Williams experienced a mixed performance in Estoril, with Rosberg and Mansell starting 3rd and 9th respectively. Both drivers had spins during the race, with Mansell finishing 5th, 2 laps down, in contrast to Rosberg, who retired on lap 16 from a potential podium finish. Ferrari fared slightly better than Williams, Alboreto finishing 2nd, the only driver besides Senna to remain on the lead lap, and Johansson finishing 8th after starting 11th. Although he didn't score points, Johansson was beginning to prove his worth within the Scuderia. McLaren likely wished the race didn't happen, as qualifying looked promising for both drivers. The MP42, known for its weak qualifying pace, performed surprisingly well, with Prost starting 2nd and Lauda 7th. However, their fortunes unravelled, with Prost spinning off retiring on lap 30, and Lauda experiencing engine failure on lap 49. Heading into Imola, McLaren aimed to get their championship chances back on track. As the teams prepared for the next race, the standings showed Alboreto leading the drivers' standings with 12 points, thanks to his 2 second-place finishes, followed by Prost with 9 points. Senna was tied with Prost for second place, and De Angelis was 4th with 7 points. Mansell was 7th with 2 points, while Rosberg and Lauda despite having the fastest cars on the grid, had yet to score points. With the standings remaining tight, anything could happen at Imola. The Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, or Imola, named after the neighbouring town, first hosted a Formula 1 Grand Prix in 1980. This was during a period when the traditional track used for the Italian Grand Prix, Monza, was undergoing refurbishment. To ensure the continuation of Formula 1 racing and to increase Imola's economy, officials rebranded the race as the San Marino Grand Prix from 1981 onwards, in tribute to the neighbouring microstate 100 kilometres from the circuit. Imola had consistently produced thrilling Grand Prix racing thanks to its high-speed characteristics that foster close racing. The track's demand for high fuel consumption posed no significant issues in previous years when refueling and pit stops were integral to race strategy. However, following the 1984 ban on refueling, races at high-speed tracks like Imola became a test of both speed and fuel efficiency, with it being more like an economy run at times. During the 1984 San Marino Grand Prix, 3 of the 11 finishers ran out of fuel. However, due to other cars being lapped, Elio De Angelis managed to finish third, even though his fuel tank was empty by the penultimate lap. Thus, as teams started the first of 2 practice sessions, they knew the final laps would be as crucial as a strong race start. When Friday practice began, the paddock and press were not focused on fuel tanks, efficiency, or Martian Brundle's massive crash, but a Frenchman, Arnoux. He was at the track, but not with Ferrari, but with another team, Brabham. This sighting sparked rumours of Arnoux' potential move to team up with Nelson Piquet, replacing current driver Francois Helsenot. Hello, yeah, this is editing me. This is quite of a stupid situation I found myself in. It's not Francois Helsenot because I should have known my words properly. It's actually Francois Hainaut. I think that's how I got it right there. But I think I have to do this man some justice. So Francois Hainaut was born in December 1956, and he raced in 2 seasons Formula 1. But actually after San Marino, that was his last ever Grand Prix with Brabham. He was actually sacked right after Monaco because he did not qualify his car. It was just because his results were too bad. But he did make a one-off appearance though in the German Grand Prix, which he actually debuted the first onboard camera, so yeah. Also, I want to mention he competed in Le Mans 2 times. Didn't finish, but still an amazing achievement, like, you know. So yeah, Francois Hainaut, apologies. However, Arnoux did not return to F1 racing until joining Ligier in 1986. But these rumours did put a lot of pressure on Ferrari's new recruit, Johansson, who was making his debut in front of the Tifosi as a Ferrari driver. After a disappointing race in Portugal, as said before, where he qualified 11th, a full second and a half behind Alboreto, and finished 9th, 5 laps down, Johansson knew he needed a strong performance at Imola to secure his position within Ferrari for the upcoming season, if he were to survive 1985. By the end of the 2 qualifying sessions, the grid was set. Ayrton Senna would take his second career pole with a time of 1 minute 27.327. Keke Rosberg in his Honda-powered Williams would be just 200ths off. Senna's teammate, De Angelis, would be half a second off pole, with Michele Alboreto in his Ferrari also being half a second off. In 5th place was Thierry Boutsen, who made an impressive qualifying in his Arrows BMW, being almost 6/10ths off pole. In 6th place would be Prost in his tag-powered McLaren, being 7/10ths off pole. 7th to 10th would be Nigel Mansell, reigning champion Lauda, Nelson Piquet in his Brabham, and Boutsen's teammate Gerhard Berger would be 10th. The rest of the field would be Patrick Tambay in the factory Renault, 1.7 seconds off. 12th would be Cheever in his Alfa Romeo, 13th Andrea de Cesaris in the Ligier, 14th would be Derek Warwick, 15th would be Stefan Johansson, almost 2 seconds off of Alboreto's time, 16th would be Jacques Lafitte, 17th would be Jonathan Palmer in his Zaxpeed, 18th Riccardo Patrese in his Alfa Romeo, 19th would be Piergano Martini in his Minardi, Piquet's teammate, Francois Helsenot, would be 20th, being 4 seconds behind the two-time world champion. In 22nd would be Perngarno Gonzalez in his Acela, Badfred Winkelhock in his Ram Harsh. 24 should be Johansson's replacement in Tyrrell, Stefan Beloff, being 8.3 seconds off the pace, with Martin Brundle right behind him. And last would be Mario Baldi in the Spirit, 9.5 seconds off the pace in 26th. Senna had an exceptional start, leading into Tamburello, with there being more action at the back of the grid, with Rosberg dropping from 2nd to 5th right from the start. He was overtaken by De Angelis, Alboreto and Prost, with Boutsen's impressive qualifying performance being unravelled, dropping from 5th to 8th and later down to 9th. Alboreto, now cheered on by Tifosi, was being challenged by Prost and Rosberg, with his Ferrari's straight-line speed preventing any overtakes from McLaren and Williams. By the end of the first lap, the well-balanced Lotus duo of Senna and De Angelis settled into a steady rhythm, pushing the limits of fuel and tyre performance, with De Angelis keeping Senna under constant pressure, but this will later backfire. It quickly became apparent that Prost was the fastest driver on track, his McLaren showing better race pace. However, Alboreto was holding him back, necessitating Prost to make his move sooner rather than later, as his McLaren had better race pace than the Lotus duo. By lap 4, the leaders Senna, De Angelis, Alboreto and Prost were all within a second of each other, showing that the battle for the lead continued throughout the race, despite Senna's mature control of the pack. Meanwhile, on lap 5, the Alfa Romeo of Riccardo Patrese suffered from an engine failure, and Boutsen's teammate Gerhard Berger retired due to engine trouble, as did Mauro Baldi due to electrical issues. Baldi's retirement was particularly significant for the team he was racing for, Spirit Racing, which founded in 1983, would not return to the grid after this race, as its Pirelli tyre contract was bought out by Tollman, and then the team shortly ran out of funds thereafter and closed its door. By the beginning of lap 7, the leaders were Senna in 1st, De Angelis in 2nd, Alboreto 3rd, and Prost 4th, with Rosberg in 5th, Lauda 6th, Piquet 7th, and Mansell 8th, followed by Cheever in 9th in his Alfa Romeo. Boutsen was now 10th, beginning to recover from his poor start, Andrea De Cesaris in 11th in his Ligier, and Stefan Johansson in 12th. On lap 8, Prost attempted to overtake Alboreto at Tosa, but was pushed onto the grass. This would not be the last of Alboreto's aggressive defense to keep Prost at bay, with Prost's situation worsening as teammate Lauda, who just overtook Rosberg for 5th and was now closing in at a second per lap. On lap 11, Alboreto reduced the pressure from Prost's attacks by overtaking a slowing De Angelis. He reduced his pace to conserve fuel and avoid overheating his tyres, a strategy that would prove crucial for the final race result. However, Alboreto's relief was short-lived, as Prost passed De Angelis on lap 12. The following lap saw De Angelis dropping back to preserve his overheating and quickly wearing tyres, having kept Senna under pressure from the race start. By lap 18, Lauda had overtaken De Angelis for 4th. Meanwhile, Andrea De Cesaris crashed out of the race, and Johansson was quickly making his way up the field by overtaking Mansell for 7th on lap 17, and was now chasing Rosberg for the final points position, being behind Rosberg's gearbox by lap 18. 1/3 into the race, on lap 20, the order was Senna leading, Alboreto 2nd, Prost 3rd, with Lauda closing in 4th, De Angelis 5th, and Rosberg barely holding on to 6th against the fast Johansson in 7th, followed by Johansson, Boutsen and Cheever. The next 5 laps were extremely entertaining for the crowd and to the millions of TV viewers, with the top 3 of Senna, Alboreto and Prost jockeying for both the race win and the lead in the Drivers' Championship. On lap 22, Alboreto made his first attempt to overtake Senna at Tosa, but failed to secure the move, with Senna showing the same maturity and race control previously seen in Portugal. The following lap, Prost, aware that teammate Lauda was fastest on track and rapidly catching them, made a bold move at Tosa, passing Alboreto, who then slowed down dramatically. The Tifosi hoped it was a misgear, but after limping to the pits and the pit crew then lifting the engine cover, the race win was shown to be out of reach. The pit crew began changing the spark plugs, which were believed to be the problem, with Alboreto re-entering the race a lap down for data collection before officially retiring on lap 27. With Alboreto's retirement, the leaders were Senna with Prost 3.6 seconds behind in clearer air, followed by Lauda, De Angelis, Johansson and Piquet in 6th. Before lap 27, Lauda, who was in striking distance of Prost, began to slow down as he missed a gear, and was then overtaken by De Angelis. Though he regained 3rd by the next lap, it was also on lap 27 when Rosberg retired due to brake trouble. At the halfway mark on lap 30, Senna was still leading, with Prost closely harrying him and Lauda 11 seconds behind, gradually closing the gap to the leaders after his mistake. Prost seized his first opportunity on lap 32 at Tamburello, exploiting lap traffic to attempt a move at Tosa. However, Senna's exceptional defending skills, which will be repeated for the rest of his career, kept him in the lead, defending aggressively but maturely against the experienced Prost. For the next 2 laps, Senna maintained his composure at Tosa, with Prost in pursuit. By lap 35, Prost had to conserve fuel and tyres, allowing Senna to widen the gap. Despite this, it wasn't entirely bad for Prost, as Lauda, after pushing his McLaren for most of the race, also had to economise on fuel and tyres, eventually being overtaken by De Angelis on lap 36. With Senna in the lead, it seemed likely he would win. However, the fastest driver on the track was Johansson, who passed Lauda on lap 37 and then closely followed De Angelis. On lap 44, in his 12th Grand Prix, Johansson overtook De Angelis. Despite De Angelis being Italian and racing before his home fans, the crowd supported Johansson, Ferrari's only hope for an Italian victory. Now, only 7 seconds behind Prost and 14 seconds from Senna, it was possible for Johansson to attempt to get the lead. During Johansson's charge, the battle for 6th was between Nelson Piquet and Boutsen, both having BMW engines, but different tyres. Piquet, on faster but higher degradation Pirelli tyres, had already pitted for a new set, while Boutsen's arrows on Goodyear tyres remained on the same set throughout the race. Senna lapped the duo on lap 52. The battle for 6th turned for battle for 5th, with Lauda also slowing even more to conserve fuel and was now 7. On lap 53, Johansson passed Prost, who had slowed in solidarity with his teammate. With 7 laps remaining, Johansson was being trailed by Senna with nearly an 8-second lead. Senna was now on his way to his 2nd Grand Prix win and the lead of the Drivers' Championship. A significant achievement for Lotus, leading the Constructors' Championship for the first time since 1978. Senna just needed to maintain his pace. However, with just 3 laps remaining, Senna unexpectedly ran out of fuel at Rivazza, allowing Johansson to pass him just before the start of lap 58. Senna's retirement was a major disappointment for him and for Lotus. However, it was an utter story for Tifosi celebrating Johansson's lead, with BBC commentators Murray Walker and James Hunt sharing in the excitement.
Ferrari is going to win his first Grand Prix, and that would be quite something. What a wonderful story. He's tried for so many years.
I will tell you this, that the Italian crowd is absolutely beside itself with euphoria and excitement, as well they might be, because as James said...
Johansson, initially considered fortunate to finish in the points, now needed to stay focused, as his Ferrari's computer indicated that there was enough fuel to finish the race. Yet, as he approached Aquiminerale, the Tifosi's cries of joy turned to dismay.
The obvious suspicion probably won't pick up any points at all, because he's unlikely to be able to limp round for 3 laps. And that's Johansson. Johansson's in trouble now. Johansson is probably in fuel trouble, and Prost has now gone into the lead.
Unbeknownst to Johansson and the Ferrari pit wall, his 156's computer had experienced a bug, which allowed more fuel to be consumed than normal, but showing that there was still enough left in the tank. Johansson didn't seem too upset by losing the race lead, as he did prove himself in front of the Tifosi, with him waving and smiling while walking back to the pits. Senna and Johansson wouldn't be the only ones though having troubles with fuel, with Brundle running out on lap 56, Piquet on lap 58 and Mansell on lap 59. In the meantime, Prost had taken the lead of the race, and knowing there was no real competition behind him, crossed the line to win the race, with De Angelis not too far behind. But this wasn't the weirdest moment, with Boutsen, due to retirements up the grid, found himself being third, but meters from the finishing line. His arrows also ran out of fuel, and with the Renault driver Tambay, who had overtaken a slowing Lauda earlier on the same lap, Boutsen bounced out of his car and pushed its 545 kilogram A8 car over the line, moments before Tambay crossed the line for fourth. Prost, now out of fuel, moments after crossing the checkered flag, and was picked up by Tambay's Renault, celebrating on his car on the victory lap. But after the champagne was sprayed, and when the last spectators are leaving to catch the last train home, a massive development rocked the paddock regarding the legality of Prost and De Angelis' cars.
Quite extraordinary end, and there you see a confirmation of how it finished. But since then we've learnt that there's been an objection to the 1 and 2, that's Alain Prost and Elio De Angelis. Something about weight problems, and we've got Murray on the line now to tell us a little more about that. Murray.
With the crowds pouring away from Imola in an exciting atmosphere of rumour and counter-rumour, there comes the sensational news that Alain Prost and Elio De Angelis, supposedly first and second in the San Marino Grand Prix, may both have been disqualified. For the regulations state that at the end of the race, the car, minus fuel, must weigh no less than 540 kilograms. Both Prost's and De Angelis' cars are alleged to weigh less than that. If that is so, Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows has won his first Grand Prix, with Patrick Tambay second and Lauda third. But in this atmosphere, anything could happen. All I can tell you is that things are really exciting, to put it mildly, and stay tuned.
Oh, we will, but that's how the position would be in the Drivers' Championship if the results...
After complaints from numerous teams, the McLaren and Lotus cars were investigated for being underweight, with De Angelis not being penalised, but Prost McLaren, which was found to be 2 kilos underweight, was disqualified from the race by the afternoon. This concluded in the final points finishers were Johansson 6th, getting his first points in Formula 1, even if he ran out of fuel, Mansell 5th, also running out of fuel right before the finish. Forza's reigning world champion Niki Lauda, collecting his first points of the season. But by season's end, as a result of mechanical issues, Lauda would only finish in the points 2 more times, with a 5th place in Hockenheim and 1 final win at the Dutch Grand Prix, with Lauda finishing 10th in the standings, with Prost winning his first championship. Third would be Patrick Tambay, collecting his 2nd podium of the season, but would be his last, and the last, of the original iteration of the Renault Works team in F1. Second was Thierry Boutsen, after recovering from his poor start and a sheer amount of luck of others running out of fuel, got his first F1 podium and second for Arrows. And in first, with him not leading a single lap, would be Elio De Angelis, who would secure his second and final F1 win. Because of his strong form, De Angelis would jump from 4th to 1st in the standings, which he will hold the lead for only 2 rounds, and was a title contender until Senna made a late season charge after experiencing several mechanical failures in the season. And by the end of the season, Senna would finish 5 points ahead of De Angelis and would make De Angelis sit 5th in the standings. This may have influenced his decision to jump to Brabham next season, which on May 14th, De Angelis would crash during testing at Paul Ricard, with his rear wing flying off his BT-55 on the pit straight, and would cartwheel into a barrier and would catch fire. With a lack of track marshals on site at the time, it will be 30 minutes until De Angelis was extracted from his car. Elio De Angelis would succumb to his injuries 29 hours later. He was only 28. In conclusion, the 1985 San Marino Grand Prix is an example of how the race is never always won at the first corner, and that anything could happen after the checkered flag, which makes the 1985 San Marino Grand Prix a part of the forgotten formula. Now, I think that's the end of the video now. I know it ended on a dark note, but that's history for you. And I hope this was a better one than the last couple of videos. It's more exciting, I hope, but I will be hoping to post one in the next 4 weeks again. It might be shorter content because I have exams by the end of the summer. So maybe, but I do promise an improvement over the summer now to get more and more videos. So I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe if you want to. You can always unsubscribe later. Now I'll see you in the next one.
Elio De Angelis.